Yeah, I mean, in our American bubble, we just often, I just put it very bluntly, like we often just don't recognize that there's a world out there which is communicating to us very clearly. So the Russians pretty much every day in their own propaganda talk about how great Trump is and how great the Speaker of the House is. We might not like that. We might not pay attention to it, but it's right there before our eyes. I mean, they literally go on screen in front of millions of their own people and say rah rah when there's not a vote for Ukraine aid. So they're not really hiding it from anybody that this is what they're up to. Their propaganda is basically an alternation between we're trying to destroy the Ukrainians and, oh, look, we have new pets in America, which is sort of how they describe the people who do what they want, because they're simultaneously praise them and they're incredibly condescending about them as well. They refer to Trump, for example, as Nasha Trumpushka, which is like, um, our little, I don't know, like our little Trump darling or something, like that's so it's like they praise American political figures, but also in the sense of like they're these things we sort of cuddle because we like them so much. That's how they talk about Tucker Carlson as well. Like he's very courageous compared to the other Americans, but he's also completely like our person. Let's stroke his head a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's sorry to take so much time to answer it, but like just a really simple yes. They make it 100% clear that this is what they're doing, and and they know, unfortunately, that we're so narcissistic that we don't even notice. Julia Davis does a terrific job in her writing and in her Twitter feed and on YouTube on just kind of summarizing Russian propaganda day to day. And that can be if there's any uncertainty about this stuff, she's very helpful on this. Part of my mind is now thinking about how to translate Nasha Trumpushka. I'm now thinking of like a Trumpkin dumpling, like something
Oh,
like
that's
that.
good. Yeah.
But yeah, it's in both cases. There's this mixture of authentic fear of American power. And then, because I mean, this is like one of the I mean, taking a sort of a big view, I don't know if you'll agree, but objectively, the comparison between US and Russia now is nothing like the Cold War,
Right.
right? Like there's this discourse of multipolarity, which I accept is more valid with respect to China. But if it's just a U.S. Russia thing, it's not there's no bipolarity anymore. The differences in power on kind of every dimension except the nuclear, and the nuclear is for most purposes irrelevant. The difference is so extraordinary. And so it's a mixture where like they are very afraid of the US because they know if the US actually gets its act together, essentially like we can win the war. And it sounds like very condescending, but we could win the war in Ukraine without noticing. Like the amount of help we have to give to the Ukrainians, which would be very significant for Ukraine. I mean, remember, like the Ukrainian economy is about 1/250th the size of the NATO economies. Russia's about 1/25th the size of the NATO economies. And so like if we actually just had a consistent policy, the scale of which wouldn't even be noticeable in our budget, we could win, right? And they know that. They know that. Like, and so whenever they get their useful idiots, the relief is so great, right? That it kind of bursts into hilarity,
Mm.
like, oh, look, like these people could crush us with a little finger, but look, they're not going to, because we've got Tucker, and we've got Nasha Trampushka, we've got these people. And so their relief like manifests itself in this kind of hilarity, in this kind of like, oh, well, look, the world is actually set up in such a way that we don't have to win. There are these people who are going to come and help us out.